Welcome back, everybody. My name is Krystal. Thank you for coming again for Therapy to Empower Hour.
Yeah.
Mind right, game tight, elevate your mind sight. These interviews will ignite your insight. Take notice of the lessons we learned. Why? So you can focus on shining your light bright. We share our greatness and we're courageous. Listen closely because it is contagious. Hit the subscribe. The show's worldwide. Keep an open mind and treasure yourself to shine.
Hi, welcome everybody to another edition of the My Right Game Tie Show. But this is the Therapy to Empower Hour edition. My name is Michelle Morgan. I'm your host. I am a transformational sports coach, which means I work with student athletes on the mental mindset of sports and in life. I'm also the founder of the nonprofit Vida Soto, and Vida Soto is dedicated to empowering our young adults, utilizing the Mind Right Game Type program, which consists of 2 books that I wrote: How You Use Triumphant Sports, Tools That Create a Triumphant Life, the book, and the workbook. For more information, you can go to www.vidasoto.org. And we have our lovely guest back. We have Krystal Williams, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and she has her own private practice, Therapy to Empower, hence the title of our show. So today we're actually going to be doing a follow-up episode in regards to the benefits of journaling, segment that we did last month. And we're going to be going over our experience through the journal challenge that we had in the month of October. So, welcome back, Krystal. And
Thank you. Happy to be
yeah,
back.
it was a month of journaling. How was
Oh,
that?
yeah.
How was that for you?
I think it was eye opening. I think it was definitely eye opening, not only as a facilitator, because, helping folks with their journey. And I'm also a participant too. I
Mhm.
have not practiced journaling consistently until October. And so, being on both sides of the coin, again, being a facilitator and also being a participant too, as well, it was interesting. It was
Mhm.
eye opening, like I had said. And I learned a lot about myself, some things that I want to keep, and some things that I'm like, okay, this isn't working for me. So
Mm.
it was really, those are my experiences so far.
And then I have a question. Something just came to mind because as a facilitator and like having the challenge and you're participating in it, did you feel any extra pressure to have to like keep up? Like, hey, I'm putting this together. Like, I need to
Yeah.
be like leading my example.
Oh my gosh. I think yes and no. I had, I wrote, that was kind of one of my journal entries too about
Mm,
that, of feeling there was a part of me that felt like, oh, like I need to be able to keep this up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have to be able to do this and commit. And so I think in a way that was really helpful for me. And then also in another way that I didn't really kind of feel that pressure too, because as a therapist and a yoga instructor, I really pride myself on being really authentic about my experience. And so, and I think that that is also as valuable as, you know, checking off the box that I did a journal entry. So communicating with people that, A, I'm struggling, or
mm.
that, this is all I had, in this particular space. I think that was really rewarding too. So I think it was kind of like a yes and no. I felt both a part of like that pressure in a way, but it slowly faded when I gave myself permission to be like, yo, you don't have to be the best. You don't have to know all the answers. And it is okay for you to, show up as an individual that is flawed and that um, working through this just like everybody else.
Yeah, and just so that our listeners understand too, like the journal challenge started at the beginning of October, and Krystal also created a Discord group. So in the Discord group, other people got to participate and have support. And of course, Krystal was there. And so it was also like, it's nice to know oh man, like the journal challenge, we're supposed to do 2 days this week and I've done 0. And then it's great to know that it's like, we're all human having our own different experience.
Yeah.
Like I didn't do anything either. Like, don't feel bad for not doing it or doing it. Or even like that time you wrote about something like it was a sentence. You know?
Yeah, I think it was a matter of kind of being a little bit more kind and gentle to yourself when you are participating in any new challenge or goal, that your ideal situation is not going to always be there or available to you. Ideally, I want to have at least 15 minutes, to really process and really take my time and reading. And ideally, I also want to be alone when I'm doing it. I don't want any type of distractions, but that's not always the case. That's not always available to me. And so, in that particular moment, that was really eye-opening for me to even practice for myself that, I wanted to journal, and it was at a later time. It was like 11 o'clock, at night. I was spent. I was tired. Initially, I had it planned that I was going to do this earlier, but per usual, plans didn't work out. And I ended up going to bed a lot later. And if anybody knows me, like I'm going to bed, like going upstairs around like 8:30, 9. I'm knocking out like at 9:30. I'm pretty an early bird. And so 11 o'clock for me is like, I can't function. I can't do it. And so at the particular time, I was just kind of like, okay, so I do know that I want to journal. I have enough energy for one sentence. That's all I have. Like, what can I do to kind of maybe sum up everything? And the energy that I had was to put the date and to put a sentence. I'm on the Pursuit of Happiness by Kid Cudi. And that was it. Close the book, put it away. Right. And so the next day I was sitting there and reflecting on it, and hence why I put it on the Discord about my experience, to really honor what was enough. And that ideally I wanted longer time. I wanted a different scenario, but that's not what I had available to me at the moment. And I think I really wanted to demonstrate, and what I practiced in that particular moment as well, is that like me just showing up for myself is enough. It's not necessarily checking off a particular box. It's that I'm showing up for myself, and I showed up for myself, even if it was 30 seconds, I showed up for myself, and recognizing that that is enough. You know what I mean? That is all I had, and that is enough, And so really wanting to, it's my first time really kind of practicing that very consciously and intentionally, and really want to kind of just to demonstrate that to the Discord in case anyone was experiencing that same thing.
Well, I brought that one up because that one stood out. That stood out to me because it was a reminder, because I'm a person, like if I'm in a journal, I want to have this long time, and I'm going to get into this, like, I don't know, this paragraph, this page maybe. Yeah. And it was just a reminder that it's okay to write a sentence. It's okay to say one thing, because I can put so much pressure on myself to, like, if you're not going to give like a whole page or like a whole story in your journal entry, then it's like, don't do it. But it's like, it is enough to put one sentence, if it's a song lyric or a song title or whatever it is. Like, that was why I brought that up, because it was a reminder to me that there is no specific length in terms of like making an entry like worthy.
Yeah. And you mentioned something too about like kind of like an all or nothing thinking, and how that cognitive distortion can really evoke like a lot of guilt and maybe a lot of shame, which is really unhelpful, in those moments, especially when you are trying to show up for yourself, and so when you give yourself permission to approach this with kinder eyes, then you are allowing yourself to, like, you know what? All I have is the date, and that's all. That's enough, and that's okay. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a reminder for me, like not only for journaling, but in other areas of my
For
life where
sure.
it's like, oh, if I can't do enough time to create movement in my life, then I won't do it because
Yeah.
I'm not giving myself 30 minutes. Like 10 minutes is not enough,
Mhm, mhm.
So it was a reminder that all of that is, and I don't need to have this all or nothing, or I can't,
Yeah,
step into it for that
yeah.
moment, whatever it is.
I think that was, like, kind of like the biggest takeaway, and hopefully folks too, well, who was a part of the Discord felt the same way too, is that, like, with journaling, you see that how it can translate to different areas of your life. Just like the example that you just gave now, right? It's more than just like putting it you just writing on a piece of paper. It's an opportunity to reflect on other aspects of your life of like, yo, like if I'm approaching journaling with this particular perspective, how am I also doing that in other areas of my life? Right. And how can I shift that? Right. Now that I'm noticing it and I'm building more an awareness around it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Who
Yeah.
would have thought?
I know. I know. I know. I know. I
It's like it's
know.
such a simple concept, and then you're like, we're talking about it, and it's like, yeah.
It's a lot deeper. um, how did you like the prompts?
So for me, what I learned is like I loved having prompts. So
Mm.
like just so everybody's aware, Krystal gave us prompts for the week depending on how many entries we were going to be doing that particular week. And for me, that actually made it a lot easier because I just looked at the date, wrote down the prompt, and then I just got to get going.
Mhm.
Because I think in the past, like just before that, I was like, it like I said, it's like this, oh, I'm gonna make this like meaningful question. But it could be like, I'm trying to think of like one of the, when's the last time you relaxed? Or
Oh
like
yeah.
how do you enjoy relaxing? Like
Mhm.
something that I guess I would think is like, ooh, but that's not deep enough to write about in my journal entry, right? Because it
Mhm.
sounds so simple. But that what was so cool about it is because it was so simple and I got to write down how I enjoy relaxing. And the follow-up question to that for that same entry was, when is the last time you did it?
Mm. Mhm.
And so it's also that reminder like, whoa, when is the last time that
Yeah.
I did those things that I enjoy doing when I want to relax?
Yeah.
So it brought that back, something so simple. And I think also it was a reminder to me, like the question in a journal entry can be so simple. It doesn't have to
Mhm.
be like, I don't know, this like philosophical like question and, things like that.
Yeah, it's like these journal entries that constantly like pushing the needle forward or like having those aha moments that make you go deep into your soul. And I think we
Yeah.
minimize kind of like the simplicity that can also have such an impact, you know?
Mm,
Um, and so yeah, I'm glad you found that that was helpful. Going into it, because we had did this leading up to it, the other episode. And leading
mhm.
into it, I
Benefits of
honestly think
journaling.
say it again?
The benefits of journaling
Yes.
episode.
So going into the Discord, I didn't even consider that, oh, maybe I need to have some prompts ready for folks. I think I kind of left it really open-ended for people to kind of look up their own prompts and things of that nature. And one of the members that was in the Discord kind of brought up, like, is there going to be any prompts? Like, like what's happening? And I was like, huh, I didn't consider that. Thank you. So,
Yeah.
um, and also recognizing that like having them ahead of time, could be really, really helpful. So I started doing it like maybe 1 or 2 days before, kind of like that week. And I kind of noticed too that, I'm not typically a prompt type of person. I just kind of like free flow, kind of what happens. But I did
Mhm.
run into a couple things with the prompts is that like, hey, already having them readily available to you like takes the guessing out of it, just where it's just kind of like, no, this day, this is what I'm going to do. This day, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. Because I think
Mhm.
that when I've looked at prompts before on times that I wanted to journal, I spend so much time trying to find the right question. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, right, quote unquote, right? Or a question that calls me. And I spent so much time on that I'm like, oh, fuck this. Like, let me just write what I want to write, right?
It's like going on Netflix and you're watching a show and you're watching all the trailers, and then
Yes.
next thing you know, 40 minutes has passed and you're like, well, I'm going to be going to bed in 30, so I would have finished the movie if I just would have watched the first thing I
Exactly. I'm like, man, forget this. And I don't even end up writing. And so I just kind of just free flowed. I was like, man, forget this. And so, but when it was one day where I had gave, I think it was like a week long, and I had gave, all the prompts for the week, like maybe a couple days prior. And I ran into a day where I was like, you know what, I don't really have anything kind of like that I really want to talk about that can really kind of go free flow. I was like, let me look at the prompts. I was like, what's going to be for today? And I forget what prompt it was. And I was like, oh, let's write about that. And then I was like, da, 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 da. So it just took the guessing out of it. I kind of already knew ahead of time, like what it was going to be, so I didn't spend too much time kind of searching for it. And it was kind of easy. I was like, oh yeah, that was awesome. So I'm rethinking looking at prompts. So as I am approaching journaling moving forward, of like, having something that's kind of already there where it's like, hey, if I know I'm going to journal, like maybe for this week, I may already have them predetermined, of what I'm going to do. So if I need them, boom, I can just grab it right then and there,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, because as you're talking, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm just going to Google journal entry prompts, whatever that looks like, questions, save it in my Google Drive, and I just have it. Like, even if it's like 100 questions, sometimes these Google pages, they have like 100 questions or whatever, 50.
Yeah.
And just have it there. So it's like, it's no in particular order. It's just whatever I look at first, that's going to be the question, because I'm telling you, it literally is like choosing a movie on like Netflix.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, 20 minutes
for
has
sure.
gone by.
For sure. And I think if you do get maybe 100, maybe before narrowed down to the top 5, highlighting it with the top 5, so that where you won't risk going through the Netflix catalog. Well, which one? And kind of maybe already having it there. This is 100 days. So I'm on day 2 because it's November 2nd. So the second prompt, that's the one I'm going to do. Like being really, really specific about it, so you won't kind of, again, going through the kind of list and like, well, nothing's there. But it is there.
So like, what did you have an entry that like had a big impact on you?
You know what? I don't necessarily say if it was a entry, but more of a theme that I think was coming up, where I think for first time or rediscovering, me consistently writing that I'm proud of myself and giving myself, I think, praise or acknowledgement of my efforts or attempts or things of that nature is not a common practice. And I kind of recognize that although, again, there wasn't necessarily one specific entry that just was like, whoa, but there was kind of a consistent theme that was going on of like, oh, no, you're enough. No, you continue to pull the needle forward. And I'm proud of myself for doing this, And so that's kind of really what sticks out to me, and I think overall too is like, again, not necessarily a journal entry, but I think the effects of journaling through this challenge was the being very intentional with my life, and so that was coming out in the journal prompts Oh, not in the
Mm-hmm.
journal prompts, but just journaling of like, and just the significance and the impact of my journaling experience in October was just like, I was really intentional about me showing up for my life in my life, right? And I think it was really apparent with me doing every entry or doing the most entries that I can. And was like, no, this is me showing up for myself. This is me being intentional about my life. You know, I want to show up. I want to be a participant in my own life. And so that's kind of what's really stood out. I know I didn't really answer your question, but that's what happened.
Mm, gotcha. And then, like you mentioned in the beginning, that there were some things that you would do differently or change. Like, what's
Um,
that?
I think the biggest thing, um, I don't necessarily, I think what stood out is that um, journaling daily may
Mm-hmm.
not be for me. Maybe journaling every single day may not necessarily be a habit that I will continue, but I think showing up for myself
Mm-hmm.
is a daily thing, you know, and I think that's what I learned from this whole month is me, like I say, being really intentional is me showing up for myself every single day, right? Even it's down to like, you know, cleaning, what I'm wearing or how I am engaging with people, you know, or building new relationships. I'm really being intentional about that. And also the direction that I want to go to, you know, in my life or in the future. And so I think practicing journaling daily didn't necessarily sit, but I
Mm-hmm.
think that I can see myself journaling probably like maybe 3 to 4 times a week, which is a heck of a lot more than I have done in the past because of the reflection that journaling that I was able to see, you know, when I was journaling, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was kind of like the biggest thing that I think that like uh, I don't necessarily know if journaling daily really landed. Um, Journaling as a whole, 100%. And and that my confidence with the power of journaling increased throughout that month of October. And so it will be a practice, a more intentional, consistent practice. It just probably most likely won't be daily.
Got it. And then when you speak about being intentional, like maybe give us an example of that, like how that showed up for you.
Um, I think the biggest thing is when I think about like my intentions, like almost kind of keeping a promise to myself. You know, oftentimes when, you know, when I think there's a huge talk right now, or at least in the clinical world about like setting boundaries, you know, also kind of like setting boundaries with other people. But oftentimes we don't look at like how do we set boundaries for ourselves, right? And how sometimes we may override certain things. And so, or kind of brush it off, or like, nah, maybe tomorrow I'm not going to do this, or um, you know, beating yourself up for either not doing it or X, Y, and Z. And so when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to setting an intention, I just feel like, hey, this is a promise that I made to myself. And so I'm going to commit to that promise to myself. And by me committing to my promise, however I show up, whether it be like I only have 10% left, AKA that one sentence left, but it's me showing up. You know what I mean? And I'm showing up really with kind eyes and grace when I am following through on my promises to myself. And so if I've made a promise to myself that, hey, you know, I'm going to stretch in the morning, I'm going to work my hardest to commit to it. It may not look the same every single day, but I'm really intentional about that, you know? So I hope
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah, and I think what I like also like the last part that you mentioned too that resonates with me is like saying that it's not going to look the same every day, you know,
Mhm.
regardless of what um that intention is. So like I'll use myself for an example. Like right now I'm learning Spanish. I'm acquiring the language. And so like not every day can I do I log the same amount of hours into that intention for myself. So also just remembering that it can look different every day. It does not mean that I'm not giving 100% to myself.
100%, right? Like wholeheartedly, you know, because we can't anticipate that we're going to be our ideal self every single day. We can hope, we can try, but feelings, thoughts, memories, sensations, the weather, like it doesn't work that way. It really doesn't.
Mhm.
And so that's what I mean by like giving ourselves some grace. And, you know, with that grace that like, hey, I only have 10% in the gas tank today as of Wednesday, but tomorrow I may have 75%. So it's going to look different. And so if one of the days I have nothing to give that day, I promise
Mhm.
myself, I'm committing to myself and showing up for myself, and being intentional, is that I'm not going to also criticize myself. I'm not going to get down on myself, shame myself for not doing that thing, because that further takes me away from showing up for myself even more. You know, that's also setting an intention too.
Mm. Got it.
Hmm.
I like it. So I mean, yeah, I really like how the challenge has kind of spawned into like other ways for me to be great, be aware about myself and like how I see myself too at the same time. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely thank you for creating this challenge.
Yeah. Do you think you'll continue doing journaling as often, daily, or what do you think?
I don't see it daily.
Mhm.
Um, I have like to me, I'm like gonna be more like realistic with myself. I would say maybe like 2 or 3 times
Mhm.
a week. But I see that and like just learning that prompts work because I haven't used prompts before. It's more so
Yeah.
like me just going off the cuff. Excuse me. So that's one thing that I learned is that I really enjoy having the prompts. I really,
Mm.
really, really like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it just allowed me to stretch like my mind on the things that I can think about,
Yeah. Yeah.
not just what's
Right?
happening in front of me. And that's what I journal about.
Mhm.
So I really like that's what I like. I loved about the prompts.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. The prompts was cool. I feel like I got a second wind or a second crack at like the prompts when, you know, it was asked like, wait a minute, where's the prompts at? I'm like, oh, okay, let me figure something out.
SOS, SOS.
Let me figure something out. And so I'm like, okay. Now let me look at them. You know what I mean? Let's see. Let me, you know, here. And I think that's where the kind of the separation too that happened, where it's like, okay, here's the prompts. This is not me as a participant. I don't really, that's not my jam. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
So, but
mhm.
that's what I need to do as a facilitator. You know what I mean? And so, yeah. Um, you know, one of the other things that kind of stood out too that I provided for folks was kind of like the if then method, right?
Mm,
And so, you know, I have an intentions that I am going to do my journal entries at between 9 and 10 o'clock. And so 9 and 10 o'clock hits and I'm still in bed. I just don't feel like getting up or, you know, just something happens. So if I do not do my journal entry at
mhm,
9 a.m., then I will do it at blank. You kind of set a realistic time, um, date, whatever, that you will potentially do it. You know what I mean? And so that is something that I had got a message that's saying that was kind of helpful for them to be able to organize and structure kind of like their day and helpful way of kind of like not getting, having that all or nothing,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of challenging that, like, okay, well, if I don't do it at 10 o'clock, then I have another option. And if that other option does not plan out, look at that situation with kind eyes and then be able to move on to either the next day or the next moment, you know?
Yeah. I guess that's like a theme within, like it can look differently, but that all or nothing, it looks differently, but it's happening like in different ways. Like, oh, I
Mhm.
don't have enough time, or it's like not even thinking about, okay, if I plan to do it at 9 a.m., it's okay to like say I'm gonna do it at 9 p.m. at night. And then
Yeah.
it's kind of like you have to just kind of play it as it's happening
Mhm.
and still
Yeah.
have those kind eyes, you know.
Mhm. And also recognizing that then, if it's then at, 9 p.m., so to speak, that again, still setting realistic expectations for yourself. That at 9 p.m., I may not have that 15-minute window to, write this novel or or have the isolation or the privacy, sorry, in order for me to do it, So going back to what is enough right now, the whole purpose is you just showing up for yourself. I've done several entries where my wife is literally in the room talking her ear off, and I don't know what she's saying. Sorry, babe,
Was
if
she
you're
talking
listening
to
to
you,
this.
or is she just talking out loud?
It's a combination of both. And
Okay.
I love her. And she knew. So it wasn't one of those situations where she's talking to me about like, some life-changing events, like, of course. But
Put down the
but there was
pen, Krystal.
yeah, I know,
Right.
but there is definitely moments where that's all I had available to me, right? It's where, hey, I'm doing this journal entry right now, and someone is in the room with me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Ideally, no, I want some privacy. I don't want anybody around. I want no noise at all. But that was available to me at the time, and so not my ideal situation, but that was enough, and
Mhm.
so again, just honoring that, especially if you're using the if then method.
Got it. And so it's also like you can get into the zone of like, yes, the TV may be on or someone's watching something or someone's speaking, but it was like, what can I give myself within
Mhm.
this time right here, right now?
Yeah. And what do I have access to right now? And again, like we mentioned before, that like every day is going to be different. Every day is going
Mhm.
to be different, So tomorrow you may have all the privacy in the world, you know? And so the next day you might not get to it. And then the next day, et cetera, et cetera, So um give yourself some grace and making realistic expectations for yourself and knowing whatever you do is enough. Just show up for yourself.
I like that. I
Mhm.
think that's a I think that's a great way to kind of end the journal challenge for October. I guess my question is, do you have any other challenges coming up?
Ah, I had mentioned something where I wanted to introduce kind of like a meditation challenge for the month of November, but we're kind of already here. Meditation and mindfulness practices has been a part of my life for about a year and a half.
Mhm.
And there are several different ways on how I meditate, and really kind of wanted to introduce that to people, or how to adopt kind of like a mindfulness practice. When we talk about intention, how do we um, walk through life not only with kind eyes, but with intention, you know? Or I'll say on purpose, So that
Mhm.
means you really heighten your awareness when that happens. And so yeah, was thinking about that, but that may not be until December, because we're already in November right now, or I may do it at the top of the year. So look out for that. um Again, either it's going to be mindfulness, a meditation challenge, either for December, the top of the year, or I might do a yoga challenge where I introduce people to different forms of yoga. I think with yoga, as a yoga instructor, the world or just the Western society only knows one part of yoga, which is called an asana, which is the physical postures. But there's 8 parts of being a yogi, and an asana is only one of them. And so that's tend to all we know. And so I would love to introduce people to the other parts of yoga outside of kind of like doing the physical postures. And mindfulness and meditation is a part of that.
Well,
But
I
I'll
would
keep you
definitely
posted.
love to. No, I definitely want to learn more about that because, yeah, like to me, when I hear yoga, I'm thinking postures.
Mhm.
That's kind of how I see yoga. But I would love to learn like what else does that look like as
Yeah,
well.
for sure. Yeah, because there's people say that if they're a yogi, they're going off of there's principles and ethics that goes with being a yogi, and so that's a part of it's called 8 limbs. And so yeah, I could break all that stuff down to you. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would love to learn that. And then, okay, so you mentioned like kind of when you started talking about doing like a meditative or mindfulness challenge, and you talked about like walking through with like kind eyes because you use intentional then purposeful. Like, are we talking about like literally like not necessarily like being still in a moment, but even like I don't know, walking down the street or walking through the grocery store aisle, like what does that like mean?
100% exactly what you're saying. Like, if I am walking through life and I'm increasing my awareness, I am looking at life on purpose, and so I'm looking at the clouds on purpose. I'm driving with purpose. I am looking at the apple on purpose. And so I'm really heightening up all of my senses when I talk about mindfulness too. It's not just what I see, but what I taste, what I smell, what I hear, what I touch, right?
Mm.
And so it's through intention and through purpose. And so if you, I'm about to say I could do, let me think about like an exercise in a way. I can introduce you to something if you're open to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So this could be something, this is a tool that I've utilized with some of my clients in order for them to um, practice being present.
Mhm.
Okay. Because our minds and emotions and everything, it wanders, right? We have like a billion thoughts like all the
Mm.
time. And
Mhm.
so really wanting to help folks, how do they, um, look at things on purpose
Mhm.
and be in the present moment, you know? And so there's a lot of wonderful things that happens in the present moment, and sometimes we miss it because of a thought, or we're thinking about work, or we're just not here, Our bodies are here, but we're not really present. So
Mhm.
here's an exercise that you could do.
Yeah.
Let me pull something up real fast. So, okay. So, in the room right now, in where you're located, I want you to point out 5 things that you can see.
I can see my laptop. I can see this light. I can
Mhm.
see a map. I can see a ball, and I can see a flag and a
Okay.
feather.
Okay. I want you to identify 4 things that you can feel.
I can feel the chair that I'm sitting on. I
Mhm.
can feel the sweats that I'm wearing. I can feel the headphones on my ears,
Mhm.
and I can feel my shirt on my body.
Okay. 3 things that you can hear.
I can hear the traffic from one side. I can hear the peace through my other window. I heard someone close a door outside right now.
Two things that you can smell.
I can smell myself.
Mm-hmm.
I can smell the presence of stillness, I guess.
You can even lift something up and smell it. You know, if you have like a cup, or if you have like something to drink or to eat, or even
I can
your
smell this microphone.
yeah. Mm-hmm. What does it smell like?
Like something that's like kind of been in a box when you put it back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, what is this made out of?
Right. One thing that you can taste.
Oh, my breath.
Okay. I'm mad that you just said that with such disgust, but yes.
Girl, I'm like, where is my water bottle at? Like, you know, I got situated in those moments where I got situated. I'm like, where did I put my water bottle at? Usually I have that next to me. I'm like, oh, like, you know, your throat gets, well, my throat is like kind of like dry from talking. I'm like, where did I leave my water bottle at? Okay, yeah.
So while you were activating all of your senses, where was your thoughts?
On the question that, well, like I was present, like I was just like, yeah.
Right? You were here.
Yeah.
You were looking at what was happening in your room on purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were hearing things on purpose. You were smelling things on purpose, building an awareness of what was happening around you. And so having that practice can help with reducing anxiety, sometimes even depression, sometimes also too, like when we're getting heavily activated, sometimes we're not even aware that we're activated at all. So if I practice being attuned with my body and noticing like, yo, like I notice that my stomach is turning right now. I notice that my heart feels super, super heavy right now. Or my whole body feels a little bit limp. Like I'm building an awareness about like what's happening here. I can also spot like, hey, if it's connected to a memory that happened, of memories that's connected to the past, then I can do whatever I need to do to be able to get back present here, because our minds are automatically going to think that we're back there. It's not way up to detecting that like, oh yeah, no, that was totally like 3 years ago. But our bodies are reacting and saying like, no, but that's happening now. So we almost kind of have to train our minds and our bodies to be like, okay, no, I'm safe. 5 things that I can see. Okay. Slowly regulating the nervous system. I'm getting back into the present moment. And now I'm able to respond to whatever stimuli is coming my way. And this is why I think mindfulness practices is super, I think attractive. I know that's kind of like the buzzword right now, is mindfulness that's happening, but really practicing it with intention can be really transformative with a lot of folks. And noticing that you do not have to kind of sit in a meditative state in stillness, which is very powerful too. Like if you do that, but you can also practice, like you said, just right now, okay, what can I see? Right? What can I taste? What can I hear? You can do it when you're eating. Right. And so, I've adopted that within the last like year and a half. And it has definitely helped me with my relationship with food, because I'm able to notice my hunger cues. I'm able to be aware of like, okay, yo, that's anxiety right there. That's not me, that's anxiety. Okay. Okay, regulate my system, get back into the present, notice, right? And noticing without criticism in X, Y, and Z. So, yeah.
So when you say like we can get overstimulated, are you talking about like getting like overwhelmed, like in a situation, like, oh, I'm starting to get stressed. I feel like there's like a lot of things are starting to pile up and I still have a lot of things to do. Is that kind of like the same thing of like being like I think that's the word that you use.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's basically when when your nervous system is not regulated. And so that can be onset of getting triggered by something that you smell, something that you see, something that you touch or taste, right? Or even a memory can evoke you getting activated in your body, because our emotions are stored in our bodies. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Hence why sometimes we have a visceral response that takes place. And so we want to find ways on how to regulate ourselves. How do we calm the body down?
Mm.
And so by practicing being in the present moment can also be a way of calming the body down. And there are some asanas, aka physical postures, that you could utilize to calm the body down too, like headstands, downward facing dog, putting your legs on the wall. Like there are certain things that you could do again to help regulate the body, regulate that nervous system if you're getting activated. And that helps again being in the present moment. And so that way you're able to respond better.
I definitely want you to come back for more therapy to empower hour and like show, like, I guess have pictures of the poses so that like, you know, we could see it. I think like it's very important because I'm just learning like, okay, like I can stretch my mind. Like there's other things that I can do. It's not necessarily like sit still and like be like my like a meditation type, you know, deal. Like there's other ways to practice mindfulness, and that is like so important because it's nice to know that it can look different, especially like I'm just thinking like it's only supposed to look one way. And so it's cool to know that there's other ways to, you know, like practice it. And it sounds fun too. So yeah. We got to have the yogi edition.
I know.
Krystal.
I know. Yeah. I think this is why yoga for some people can be very transformative, because depending on the yoga practice, it can be or the asana practice, it can be very meditative, right? And so because you're connecting with your body, you're noticing sensations. And if you think about it, our society is very go, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. And I think this practice allows you to kind of slow down and to pay attention, you know? And so tons of benefits when it comes to it.
It even reminds me of like, I think of like a child, like say they fall, but it's like they're like, and it's almost like, man, like I'm thinking about like, what if I can use questions like these? Like, you know, tell me what you see right now. Like, so I can hear like what's happening to you. Like, I don't know, like, you know, why you're upset or what's going on. It's like, you know, yeah, like you said, 5 things that you see. Okay, 2 things that you feel, 1 thing, or just make it simple, you know, but I just thought of that right now. Like, okay, this could be another way to, you know, like learn and, you know, see what works.
Help people regulate so that way they can respond in a different way. So if I'm getting activated, and so my reaction to that activation is I may yell, I may get angry, I may throw something, X, Y, and Z. But if I can regulate my nervous system at the time and recognize that, like, okay, I'm fine, or let me breathe, or let me notice what's happening here, now I can respond to the person who's asking me those questions a little bit better. And if you think about it, we do it all the time, just like even in just romantic relationships. If somebody says, hey, let me get a break, this is getting a little heated, and then I come back to you. Typically, when we come back to the person in a calmer state, we can respond a little differently, right? And so kind of in that same vein.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad that we have now created more episodes.
I'm here for it.
You're not going anywhere.
I'm here for it.
Before we get going, may you share how people can connect with you, reach out to you, all that good stuff.
You can reach out to me via email, Krystal with a K at therapy2empower.com. And that's therapy2to empower.com. You can find me on my TikTok, either in.session, or you can go into the search engine therapist to yogi, as well as my Instagram, therapist to yogi. Yeah.
Cool. And then, I'm trying to think. Okay, so I was thinking of either or question, but first, I want to thank you for coming back on, and you're doing an amazing job, and I'm learning so much. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I am grateful for you and all that you're bringing through with the knowledge and the information that you're sharing through Therapy to Empower. So I really appreciate you for all that you're doing. And then finish this sentence.
Okay.
I am grateful for.
I am grateful for I am grateful for putting this. Is this one? I'm grateful for me putting this challenge together. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm kind of grateful for that because I was able to learn a lot and also build community, which is something that I thrive on. Like, I love community, and to be able to bring people together with the common interest of just learning and growing in this area. I'm really grateful that I was able to build this community and put this challenge together, because it challenged me. It sounds like it challenged other people too. And everyone kind of really learned a lot in different ways. And so I'm really grateful that I followed through on participating in this challenge and facilitating it.
Yes, you did a great job. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And thank you for being on the Mind Right Game Type episode, the Therapy to Empower edition. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. To catch any of our previous episodes, you can always go to www.mindrightgametype.com, or you can also check out previous episodes on your favorite streaming platform, whether if it's Spotify, Google, or Apple Podcasts. Make sure to hit the subscribe and the like, because the show's worldwide, and treasure yourself and shine.
Bye.